The trading floor erupted in chaos as red numbers cascaded across every screen, signaling an instant collapse no one had predicted. Marcus Langley, a 42-year-old financier with sharp features and a tailored navy suit, gripped the edge of the polished oak desk. His hands trembled, though he tried to mask it with a steely gaze. "How is this possible?" he muttered under his breath, voice tight with disbelief. Around him, younger traders shouted, waving papers and phones, their faces pale with panic. The hum of machines became a roar, lights reflecting off polished surfaces like warning sirens. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city skyline, casting a cold gray light through floor-to-ceiling windows. Marcus' confidant, a composed woman in her late 30s named Evelyn, placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "We need a plan, Marcus, now." The weight of decades of ambition pressed down. Every risk he had taken now seemed to teeter on a knife's edge. Betrayal, unseen yet palpable, lingered in the corners of the room as whispers of hidden manipulations crept in. Every heartbeat echoed the fragility of fortune, and every glance around the room confirmed that trust was as fleeting as the numbers on the screen. Marcus's mind raced, but clarity came in fragments. Allies might turn, competitors would strike, and the world he had helped build could crumble before nightfall. The hum of alarms blended with anxious voices as Marcus realized the collapse wasn't just a momentary blip, it was systemic. Evelyn whispered, "These numbers aren't random, someone engineered this." Every familiar face on the trading floor felt like a stranger. Marcus's mind raced, tracing every decision, every deal that could have led here. Outside, the storm intensified, raindrops streaking down the glass walls, mirroring his growing dread. The weight of unseen betrayal pressed down, the specter of rivals manipulating markets made every glance toward a colleague suspect. He felt trapped, a king in a palace built on sand. Yet, deep within, a spark of determination flared. He could not fall without a fight. Marcus's eyes scanned every monitor, every phone, searching for patterns in chaos. Each number screamed danger, opportunity, and deceit at once. Evelyn's voice cut through his thoughts, calm but urgent. "We need to move now." The city beyond, cloaked in storm, seemed indifferent to human turmoil. Every heartbeat reminded Marcus that the world of finance was ruthless, and survival demanded strategy, cunning, and sometimes betrayal. Evelyn's hand rested on Marcus's arm, steadying him. "Marcus, the architect is moving unseen," she said, voice firm. The trading floor roared behind them, yet her words cut through like a knife. Marcus's mind struggled to grasp the scope of the threat, betrayal now personal and precise. Every ally, every contact felt vulnerable, every decision fraught with risk. Panic rippled through the room as younger traders sought guidance, eyes darting for leadership. Marcus's jaw tightened, the weight of responsibility pinning him like an anchor. The city outside mirrored his turmoil, lightning splitting clouds above, rain drumming on glass with relentless urgency. He realized that the collapse was orchestrated, every falling number part of a plan. The confidant's calm presence grounded him, yet fear lingered like a shadow in the corners. Marcus's thoughts spiraled. How deep did the betrayal go? Who could be trusted, and what would be sacrificed to regain control? Each second stretched as tension built, a storm both within and outside the room. From the corner of the room, Marcus glimpsed a shadowy figure, precise and deliberate, observing without speaking. Evelyn whispered, "The architect is already here, testing reactions." Every nerve in Marcus's body tightened. The room's chaos contrasted with the silent menace of this unseen strategist. Papers fluttered, alarms blared, traders scrambled, yet the architect moved like a phantom through the storm. Marcus's pulse quickened. Betrayal had a face, though obscured. Lightning cast fleeting shadows across polished floors, revealing moments of tension and fear. He imagined every deal, every handshake, every trust placed in colleagues, now all potentially exploited. His focus narrowed, mind calculating, instinct screaming caution. The room's panic mirrored the city beyond, but here inside the game was already set. Evelyn's grip on his arm reminded him of alliances still intact, yet the architect's silent gaze promised challenge and peril unlike anything he had faced. Every heartbeat underscored that control was slipping, and the coming hours would define legacies and ruin reputations. Marcus retreated briefly to a corner, hands on knees, trying to steady himself. The storm outside matched his inner turmoil. Lightning flashed, illuminating sweat and worry on his face. Evelyn stayed nearby, silent but supportive. He reflected on decades of ambition, deals, and the personal cost of his rise. Friends had become competitors, trust was fragile, and fortune had always been a delicate balance. Now, that balance teetered dangerously. Each decision, each second, felt monumental. The trading floor continued in chaos, monitors glowing red, alarms ringing, papers flying. Marcus's mind replayed every choice, every risk, and the faces of those he might lose. He understood finally that survival meant strategy and sacrifice. But even as he planned his next moves, an emotional ache reminded him that power without loyalty left only emptiness. Evelyn's gaze met his, steady and reassuring, a rare comfort in the storm of collapse. Marcus inhaled, centering himself, knowing the world had changed in a heartbeat, and the battle had just begun. Marcus and Evelyn worked in the high-rise office, rain hammering the windows. "We need to trace the origin," she said, pointing at scattered reports. Patterns emerged. Someone had orchestrated the collapse with precision. Marcus clenched his jaw. Survival now required instinct and ruthlessness. By evening, anomalies led to a network of shell companies across continents. Marcus and Evelyn traced every suspicious transfer, realizing the architect had anticipated every move. Each revelation tightened the noose, sharpening both fear and resolve. A knock revealed Daniel, 40, a trusted colleague with insider knowledge. "I've been tracking them too," he said. Marcus motioned him in. With every new insight, the strategy to confront the architect grew clearer. Alliances were rare, but Daniel could tip the balance. Marcus received a cryptic challenge from the architect. The city shimmered in the rain-soaked morning light as he read the message. "We will meet the challenge, and we will not falter," he said. Outside, anticipation crackled. The silent game had begun. In a war room-style session, Marcus, Evelyn, and Daniel analyzed maps and monitors. "We anticipate, then counter," Marcus said. Every decision carried weight. Outside, the city went about its day, unaware of the silent war unfolding in the high-rise above. Marcus stared at the black-and-white photo of the old financial summit. "The architect was here all along," he muttered. Memories of past betrayals collided with present threats. Every decision he made now was both survival and redemption. Evelyn discovered a coded message buried in financial records. "It points to an offshore hub," she said. Marcus felt the adrenaline surge. The lead could either corner the architect or plunge them deeper into danger. They flew to Geneva, blending into luxury crowds, following shadows of shell corporations. Every encounter felt like a chess move. "They know we're coming," Marcus said. The city's elegance masked a hidden battlefield. A trusted banker, the collateral, vanished without a trace. Marcus slammed his fist. This was planned. Evelyn checked surveillance. The architect had been steps ahead. Every victory now demanded careful patience and courage. Daniel questioned their next move. "Are we allies or pawns?" he asked. Marcus realized that even loyalty was fragile in this war of wealth. The line between friend and enemy blurred, forcing sharper instincts. Marcus strode through the marbled halls of the financial summit, his eyes scanning every face for signs of unease. Whispers floated like ghosts between the gilded columns, subtle murmurs about deals and shifting alliances. Evelyn caught up, her expression taut. "People are watching, judging every move," she said softly. Marcus paused, gripping the edge of a polished railing, feeling the weight of scrutiny. Every handshake, every nod, was now a potential trap. In the dim glow of the chandeliers, he realized ambition could blind even the sharpest minds. He muttered, Loyalty is rare, suspicion is everywhere. A sudden chill swept the hall as a breeze rattled the ornate windows, mirroring the uncertainty that threaded through his thoughts. In the bustling atrium, Marcus finally faced Julian, the rival whose ambitions mirrored his own. Julian smirked, eyes glinting with challenge. "Still playing the safe game, Marcus?" he asked, his tone dripping with mockery. Marcus's jaw tightened, recalling every slight, every lost opportunity that had built tension over years. "Safety doesn't mean weakness," Marcus replied evenly, though his fingers itched for action. Evelyn lingered nearby, tense but watchful, sensing the confrontation could ignite a larger conflict. The air hummed with unspoken threats, the chatter of onlookers fading into a background of strategy and suppressed aggression. In that moment, Marcus understood the game had evolved. It was no longer about wealth alone, but influence, control, and perception. Late at night, Marcus sifted through confidential reports, uncovering discrepancies that hinted at hidden agendas. Each revelation felt like a dagger to the foundation he had carefully built. Evelyn leaned on the doorway, whispering, "These numbers aren't mistakes. Someone is manipulating them." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, heart racing. The shadows of the office stretched like specters across the walls, each one reminding him of alliances that could no longer be trusted. His mind reeled through potential motives: profit, revenge, power. Every scenario was worse than the last. The quiet hum of the air conditioning was deafening in its intensity, emphasizing the isolation of leadership. Marcus realized vigilance alone would not suffice. Action was inevitable. The next morning, Marcus gathered his inner circle in the strategy room, the tension palpable. "We need transparency now," he said, voice low but resolute. His colleagues shifted uneasily, sensing unspoken truths. Evelyn met his gaze and added, "We can't move forward without trust, and trust is fractured." Marcus nodded, acknowledging the weight of her words. Each person present held pieces of a puzzle, some willingly, some not. The air vibrated with uncertainty, the clock ticking louder than usual, as if marking the countdown to inevitable confrontation. Marcus felt the pressure of leadership pressing on every decision, knowing a single misstep could collapse not just his empire, but the fragile loyalty of those around him. By evening, tempers flared. Marcus confronted Julian once more, this time with evidence in hand. "You're undermining every deal we've built," he said, his voice sharp with anger. Julian leaned back, smirk fading, eyes narrowing. "I'm playing my part, just like everyone else," he shot back. Evelyn stood silently, watching the psychological chess unfold, knowing one wrong word could ignite chaos. Marcus realized the complexity of ambition. Even allies could wield betrayal like a weapon. The city lights outside blurred with rain as the tension inside mirrored the stormy night. Marcus clenched his fists, promising himself that no further manipulation would go unchecked. This was the line. Either power was regained, or it would be lost forever. Marcus paced the darkened hallway of the financial headquarters, his reflection fractured across glossy panels. The reports on his desk hinted at irregularities, subtle patterns only an experienced eye could notice. Evelyn entered quietly, her expression taut with concern. "These numbers. Something isn't right," she said, scanning the spreadsheets. Marcus frowned, recalling the alliances he had forged over years, alliances now shadowed by doubt. He whispered to himself, "Trust is a luxury I can no longer afford." The tension was palpable, the air charged with uncertainty, as a storm rumbled outside, shaking loose the calm facade they had maintained for so long. Every decision he had made now bore the weight of consequences he hadn't foreseen. In a corner office, Marcus confronted Arthur, his longtime advisor, who had been like a brother. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus asked, voice tight but controlled. Arthur's eyes flickered with guilt and defiance. "I thought it was better if you didn't know. I was protecting you," he muttered. Evelyn leaned against the doorway, silent but observant, sensing the unraveling trust. The room seemed to shrink around them, suffused with the weight of secrets. Marcus' mind raced. Every partnership, every handshake now tainted with suspicion. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal, striking at the foundation of years of loyalty and friendship. He clenched his fists, fighting the storm of anger and hurt, realizing that survival required clarity, not revenge. Marcus returned to his office, eyes scanning maps and charts pinned across walls. The network of influence he had built, once a fortress, was exposed as fragile and vulnerable. Names of partners, contacts, and allies blurred together, some complicit, some unwitting. Evelyn leaned over his shoulder. "Every move you thought was secure is now in question," she said softly. Marcus felt the gravity of the collapse pressing down like concrete. A single misstep could trigger a chain reaction that would erase everything. His mind cycled through every meeting, every deal, every subtle smile that might hide deceit. Trust, power, and ambition had collided violently, leaving only the stark landscape of risk and consequence. He resolved, silently, to take control before the network crumbled entirely. Marcus confronted the board in the main conference room, voices rising in the tension-filled air. "I will not let this betrayal define us," Marcus said firmly, every word sharp with authority. Evelyn distributed documents revealing discrepancies and manipulations, her hands steady, eyes unwavering. Colleagues shifted uneasily, some offering quiet support, others curling in defensive silence. Marcus felt the weight of every decision he had postponed now pressing forward like a tidal wave. Alliances fractured, reputations teetered, and the very foundation of his empire quivered. Yet in the storm he found clarity. Betrayal was painful but also illuminating. Only through decisive action could the fallout be managed, trust recalibrated, and the path to recovery forged. Night fell heavy, and Marcus sat alone in his office, city lights flickering through rain-streaked windows. He stared at the reports, tracing the threads of betrayal that had nearly undone him. Evelyn entered with a warm cup of coffee, setting it down gently. "You can't carry all of it alone," she said softly. Marcus exhaled, feeling exhaustion and clarity merge. The night was a crucible, painful, revealing, and necessary. Every decision, every sacrifice, had consequences that could not be ignored. But he now understood the path forward. Face betrayal, rebuild trust strategically, and wield his influence with foresight. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within, yet a quiet determination settled over him. The night of reckoning was over, and the dawn of recovery awaited. The architect's empire collapsed like a tower of cards, leaving financial institutions reeling and allies scrambling. Markets plummeted, trading floors erupted in panic, and investors whispered of ruin. Marcus stood in the eye of the storm, his hands clenched as Evelyn scanned the chaos with sharp eyes, calculating every next move. He realized that even triumphs could scar the soul. Every decision came with consequences unseen, a chain reaction of human and financial cost. The taste of victory was bitter, shadowed by the suffering left in the wake. "We've survived, but it's not over," Marcus murmured, the weight of responsibility pressing into his chest like iron. Collateral was unharmed, but the damage done to families and livelihoods lingered. Marcus reflected on those lives disrupted by his ambition, the friends lost, deals failed, and trust broken. Evelyn placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent reminder that survival was hollow without conscience. "We've weathered the storm, but the cost is written on everything we've touched," he admitted. The moral ledger weighed heavier than any financial statement. Profit could not account for regret, and every action carried echoes beyond the balance sheet. Marcus gathered the remaining allies in a quiet conference room. Apologies flowed, admissions of failure mingled with determination to do better. "We rebuild, but differently this time," he said, voice steady yet somber. Faces that once reflected suspicion now flickered with cautious hope. Broken agreements and fractured loyalties would take time to mend, but transparency became the bridge across the abyss of betrayal. Evelyn observed silently, her presence a stabilizing force, while Marcus recognized that leadership demanded more than strategy. It required humility, resilience, and the willingness to face human fragility. High above the city skyline, Marcus leaned against a balcony railing. The horizon glowed in shades of amber and rose. Wealth, power, betrayal, and revenge all seemed distant in that quiet moment. "We measure life in dollars," he whispered, "but survival, honor, and wisdom are the real currencies." Evelyn joined him, eyes tracing the horizon, her expression serene but alert. In the stillness, Marcus confronted the truth. Success without conscience was empty, and redemption required acknowledgement of the past, a willingness to endure discomfort, and the courage to lead differently. Marcus inaugurated a new initiative focused on ethical finance, mentoring emerging leaders. "This is our chance to do it right," he said, voice firm yet inviting. Young professionals gathered, attentive, absorbing lessons shaped by mistakes and triumphs. Evelyn coordinated logistics, guiding the next generation with patience and precision. The past remained, engraved in memory, but forward motion was intentional, ethical, and purposeful. Marcus realized the true measure of legacy wasn't amassed wealth but impact, trust rebuilt, and lives positively influenced. Dawn spilled gold across the city skyline, painting glass towers with fleeting brilliance. Marcus stood on the balcony, shoulders tense yet resolute, breathing in the crisp morning air. Evelyn appeared beside him, folder in hand, eyes scanning reports and proposals for the new financial initiative. "We've built something that lasts," she said softly, her voice carrying both hope and caution. Marcus nodded, feeling the echoes of battles fought, boardroom duels, whispered betrayals, and victories snatched from collapse. The city stretched out endlessly, indifferent to human struggle, yet every choice, every loss, and every triumph had left a mark on him. He wondered, quietly, if redemption was truly about fixing the past or preparing the future. The air smelled faintly of rain, and the early traffic hummed far below. Marcus realized that while wealth could vanish, influence could endure, and it demanded responsibility. Inside the newly renovated headquarters, sunlight filtered through expansive windows, illuminating a room buzzing with anticipation. Marcus addressed young leaders, each attentive and eager, while Evelyn moved quietly among them, offering guidance and gentle encouragement. "Every decision ripples beyond the moment," Marcus said, eyes scanning the room, voice steady and firm. "Integrity and foresight are more powerful than wealth alone." Hands rose, questions flew, and Marcus answered each with measured honesty. He realized that mistakes once feared as failures had become invaluable lessons. A young woman, no older than 25, asked about balancing ambition and ethics. Marcus smiled faintly, recognizing in her the drive that once defined him. Mentorship, he understood, was the true measure of legacy. It was shaping the future from the mistakes of the past. Marcus walked through the abandoned trading floor, where once the hum of ambition and desperation had filled the air. Dust settled on consoles, papers scattered like memories frozen in time. He traced the edge of a console with his fingertips, whispering, "This place. It almost took everything." Evelyn stayed silently behind, watching his reflection in shattered glass. The emptiness was both haunting and liberating. Marcus remembered nights of tension, moments of triumph, and the betrayals that had shattered trust. He realized that this relic of the past was not just ruin, it was a crucible. Every scar, every failure, had shaped him into a leader who could endure, learn, and rebuild. The faint smell of old electronics mingled with dust and sunlight filtering through cracked windows, creating a tangible echo of memory. A community event filled the courtyard outside Marcus's headquarters, tents fluttering lightly in the breeze. Local entrepreneurs demonstrated their projects, youth leaders shared initiatives, and volunteers bustled through organized stations. Marcus watched quietly, a small smile tugging at his lips as Evelyn coordinated logistics with calm precision. The energy was infectious, a symphony of ambition channeled ethically. Conversations sparked ideas, questions met guidance. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility lifted slightly, replaced with the satisfaction of watching his efforts ripple outward. True power, he realized, was not about hoarding influence, but cultivating it. And the lives touched here, the mentors, the students, the entrepreneurs, were proof that even amidst collapse, meaningful change could endure. As twilight descended, Marcus climbed the rooftop alone, city lights flickering like distant stars below. He held a small token in his hand, a symbol of journeys endured, lessons learned, and people lost or saved along the way. Evelyn approached quietly, her footsteps soft on the gravel, and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "It's your story, but the world continues," she said, her voice tender yet resolute. Marcus exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of both burden and liberation. He thought of betrayal, triumph, and moments of moral courage, realizing that power meant little without wisdom. The wind lifted his hair, the skyline shimmered with possibilities, and for the first time in years, he embraced the uncertainty ahead. Every choice mattered, every act left a mark, and now the measure of legacy rested not in wealth, but in courage, integrity, and influence. He stepped back, letting the last rays of sun and first sparks of night wash over him, ready to face whatever came next.